Let's also now welcome in the management of Titan. On those earnings, they've actually delivered on the margin front particularly. And what's the outlook going forward? Mr. Venkataraman joining us. Mr. Venkataraman, good to have you with us. Now, we did see an impact on revenues, of course, but now that the lockdown is easing, how have sales started to look, and what are the early trends that you're picking up?
Good morning. The stores started opening from the first week of May, and as of yesterday, we had about nearly 80% of our stores open, and some of them had seen a 4-week run, and we're looking at the performance of those stores to get a sense of a stable trend. And the stable trend is currently varying across formats, perhaps because of the underlying reasons for people to buy those products. For example, there is a wedding season on, and therefore there is a need to buy jewelry, and perhaps jewelry is showing a greater traction because of that. Watches are taking a little longer. But the range is between 50 and 75, 80% of the pre-COVID sale or a comparable period last year's sale. So it's quite encouraging because given the constrained circumstances in which the stores are working on the one hand and the likely mood with the public about shopping, even if they want to buy something, the trends are quite encouraging.
Mr. Venkataraman, margins have been a positive surprise as well. You have managed to control expenses, but do you expect to see a contraction going forward? What's it looking like as we move ahead? What's the expectation at these levels?
See, the company had started on a cost erosion program almost at the end of calendar 19. And without any idea that COVID is going to come our way. And therefore, it was a very good thing that we had started, and we had reached a certain momentum, some of which showed in Q4 of FY20 performance. And that momentum will continue to carry that effort into FY21 as well. It's very difficult to speak today about the margin for FY21 because the sales levels of FY21 are very uncertain. We are only committed to actually reaching normalcy by Q4 of FY21, but the manner in which we will go from quarter to quarter will determine what share of FY20 sale FY21 will actually represent, and that will determine what profit margin we'll be finally able to deliver. At the moment, we are not seeing any major impact on the gross margins of the various product categories, despite pressures that will be there from a competitive viewpoint. But the operating margin or the profit margin for the business will be determined by the final sale level we will reach for the year, which is at the moment very, very difficult to determine.
Mr. Venkataraman, hi there, good morning. Wanted to talk about, the pent-up demand as well that we are expecting. The lockdown now has gradually started easing. Are you likely, to see some sort of, what is your outlook in terms of demand that you think we could see across segments?
Actually, because of the COVID and the psyche of the public about needing products as well as buying products, we have one challenge on our hands, and therefore we need to work on creating desire in their minds for products even when they're sitting at home, and either getting them to come to the stores or enabling them to buy from home if they were not that type, using other technological interventions. So both of which we are at work. For example, on the delivery side, whether it is video demonstration or try at home or accelerating our journey into the augmented virtual reality for people to perceive their products by wearing them virtually. We are certainly nudging people to, buy from home. Our safety protocols have been rated by customers as the gold standard in each of our categories, and there has been so much of sharing that the customers have done about that, and we're using it to reassure customers that it's totally safe to step out and come to any Titan company store, so that those who are a little worried will come. So that's on the current situation. But we are very confident that there are other forces at work, certainly in some of our categories, to help us accelerate towards normalcy faster than most people. One, for example, gold and jewelry are both safe haven products categories, and therefore there would be a share of wallet from an asset class distribution point of view. The second is that the wedding season this year was expected to be good. Some of it would have got postponed from Q1 because of what happened, but the weddings will happen. And even though weddings will happen in a muted way from a celebration point of view, with a 50 people constraint and all that the government is defining, the budgets that the families had for spending on weddings is not necessarily going to dramatically reduce. And we can expect and hope for a better share of jewelry, because a lot of expenditure on the marriage hall, the catering, and the whole show, when you put up with 2,000 people coming to the wedding and all that will not happen. And therefore, some of that is potentially available for the family to spend on Sridhan and on the bride. The third thing is, we have typically seen in the past, and particularly in periods of travel,
Sure.
where large ticket international travel,
Yeah, indeed. We're all getting now accustomed to this new normal. So things will definitely not be the same, but that's the outlook on jewelry as well. And what about the watch segment? Because this quarter it's done quite well. Are these margins sustainable?
Like I said, we need to distinguish between the gross margin of the business and the operating margin of the business. The operating margin will, be influenced by the level of sale. So the first 2 months of this year, were bad, and recovery is just starting, and therefore, depending on the level of sale we finally reach of FY21 related to a normal level of sale will determine that. So that is a question very difficult to answer at this stage for any business.
Right. Morning, sir. Nikunj Dalmia also joining in from my home. Last time when we met, well, I was in studio, you were at home. We both are at home right now. My question is very simple.
I'm in the office.
Which is that a lot of categories. Oh, good to hear that. So good to hear that when you are in that you
more than a month. More than a month now.
Thank you for sharing that. We're always picking up these good stories where how things have come back to normal. Unfortunately, Bombay is such that even though we are attempting, things are not coming back to normal. I'm sure everybody is aware of the crisis. But keeping that aside, sir.
Yes.
My question is that a lot of categories have managed to migrate from the traditional retail format to online. In case of jewelry, do you think the migration will take a lot of time? Not that the demand will go down, but the natural migration which a lot of other brands have seen will not happen, because in online when you're buying jewelry, you always are in a sense circumspect about delivery, security and other factors.
Which categories have sort of leapfrogged in the share of online? I mean, just so that I can see from which point you're coming.
Talking about, let's say, food as a category, apparel as a category. A lot of categories have seen an uptick in online sales, and that's largely because of the consumer behavior in terms of a channel preference has changed. But in case of jewelry, do you think the consumer preference is unlikely to move online very, very, very quickly?
Actually, buying purely online is going to take quite a long time because it's not comparable at all to apparel. We're talking about a 100,000 rupee ticket size product as opposed to a 2,000 rupee ticket size product. And we're talking about often a group purchase as opposed to an individual purchase, often in the case of apparel. And therefore, it is going to take a long while before people start buying pure online 100,000 rupee product. Even globally, it has not happened. But what can happen and what we are starting to enable is that if I can show a product demonstrated through video to somebody who's sitting at a home, even to a family sitting at a home, then it becomes easier for them to choose. Or if I take the products home, like she shortlists from a 20 range of 20 pendants to maybe 4, and if the sales staff of the company take those 4 pieces home, or if the customer comes to the store so that she spends half the time or less than half the time looking at the 4 products that she has shortlisted, and therefore getting over her fear about spending too much time outside the home. So these are the immense possibilities that are not only being conceived, but also being explored to sort of increase the share of these things in the total purchase. But substantially, the sale will come from physical visits to the stores in the Tanishq brand. But in the Carrot Lane brand, where the customer is very different, the ticket size is maybe a fifth or even less, things can significantly improve.
On the automation and the cost cutting front, on the rental front, how much can you bring your costs down, which in a sense indirectly will protect your margins? It will be a gradual process, I understand, but is this an incremental delta which you will gain because of automation, staff cutting and rental cost going down?
Rental cost going down on account of the overall supply situation and all that? So it's a little difficult to speak on those things at the moment because the conversations are dynamically happening with hundreds and hundreds of landlords and mall owners and all that. Obviously, it's an opportunity for every company to look at the retail model, and therefore, and format to format, it will differ. For example, in the watch business, the share of online omni can significantly increase because of the nature of the customer and ticket size. In eyewear, it's a little difficult because of the need to go to test your eyes. So it'll be difficult to give a blanket answer on that at the moment.
Okay. You've just said that you expect demand to normalize by end of this year, this financial year. So what is your definition of the normalization? Should we compare normalization with what you did in last financial year, or should we compare normalization with what you did, let's say 2019, before the slowdown that hit us? What is your definition of normalization?
No, certainly everything is currently being compared to the pre-COVID. Even when we are reporting our rate of recovery, we're talking about the comparable period in FY20. So normalcy to me would mean at least the comparable period in FY20. Therefore, Q4 of FY20 level would be the minimum for us to say that we have reached normalcy.
Marriage jewelry demand plays a very large role for Titan. Marriages this year will not be such an exponential factor. That is the need of the hour, and there is a social distancing compulsion. Could that have a very large impact also going forward in Titan jewelry business?
You can look at it in multiple ways. One could say that because there is no large ceremony, people will not buy jewelry. But one very, very large role that jewelry plays is it goes with the bride as a safe haven for her family and all that. That's what the parents of the bride buy the jewelry for. So the marriage could happen only with 50 people, but the jewelry given to the bride, particularly the kind of traditional jewelry that the wedding jewelry represents, can still be for the same amount In fact, we are betting that it is likely to be higher because the marriages are not going to be, less grand, and the families are going to have more money in their hands, which they have not spent on a five-star hotel or, catering for 2,000 people at lunch and dinner and so on and so forth. A good part of it could well be influenced by us as well and by the industry to flow into jewelry purchase.
Okay. My final question is that in terms of a customer preference, where do you see the incremental change happening because of crisis? Which is that, do you think in the jewelry space, low-end categories, low-end products would be sold? Do you think imitation jewelry and some of the other low-carat, jewelry which you have, will that start going higher? Nobody knows the new normal, sir. So I'm trying to understand from you that what is your understanding of your consumer in terms of the new normal? How will the preferences change?
I actually don't know what this new normal is, because there is going to be some hesitation about people wanting to socialize, okay? And the products that we make are products which are a part of socializing, whether calling people home, going to a party, dining out, and all that. Now, people are going to take some time to get used to coming back, calling people home and so on and so forth. So that period is going to be the period when demand is going to be sluggish. But the basic need of people to socialize, if we are saying that that's going to go, I'm not connecting with that hypothesis at all. Which means that, like, for example, I have been to some people's homes. Some people have come to my home in the last 1 month. Obviously, we have kept social distance. We've worn a mask and all that. And that gave us a lot of joy. So I'm sure 3-4 months from now, people will start doing that. And our products will become part of that socializing as and when. So this whole new normal that people will now stop seeing people and everything will become through Zoom or whatever is for a few months, not for many years. So therefore, the new normal is for a few months. And we need to obviously tighten our belts, innovate, and that innovation will help us in the let's say calendar 2021 when it begins, because people have started certainly buying, exploring in a different way, but not necessarily in being with other people.